history. I forgot about Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that was pretty terrible.
Not trying to be insensitive about that, but aside from that, the Trump news was uplifting.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
If you don't like Trump, it was, yeah. So anyway, man, we got some love this week. We became a recommended feature podcast on Podbean, so please go check them out. I love their app. Follow us there if you would. That would be fantastic. And we've gotten such a positive response. You guys are awesome. I have to tell you, when I first decided to put this podcast together, which was the day the first indictments dropped, we had an episode out within days because it's so important to me that everyone gets a nice, compact, somewhat funny account of everything going on with this historic investigation. But I imagined we would have all kinds of haters and just, jerks, because you've seen online comments, YouTube comments, and
Trolls
Reddit
everywhere.
threads. I mean, we did have the fuck you in the heart guy, but he appears to have found some new women to hate. But for the most part, it's been all love, and I wanted to give a shout out to all of you. So thank you so much for supporting us. We love you, and thank you for the Valentine's Day support. That is great. So let us know what you think about us by leaving us a review on Facebook or whatever platform you listen to us on, or just a tweet or Insta. It's both at Mueller, She Wrote. This show is for you, so let us know how we can bring you the best info possible. We love feedback. And in case you're new, if you like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter, you are automatically entered to win a PlayStation 4. I'm going to buy you one personally.
Ooh.
So I'll even sign it. No, I won't sign it. That would probably totally ruin the value.
And you're not a minute. You have to do the AG. Well, that could work. Yeah, you could sign an AG.
Right. Just I signed my... You can't read my signature anyway, so it's just more mystery. Even though it's really not hard to figure out who I am.
True.
All right. Well, with the hi there's and hellos out of the way, how about we get right to it with just the facts. All right, guys, so starting Sunday, Newsweek released a piece on Nunes. It's a pretty great article about a pretty despicable man, and since Jordan's been so studiously covering him for us, she's going to have a Devon deep dive in a little bit, I think. I think I look forward to that. Monday was a big day. Aside from us finding out Putin spoke to Trump yet again by phone, this time about Palestinian-Israeli settlements. You guys, that's 8 times they've chatted where we've had to learn about it from the Russian media. The House Intelligence Committee declassified a Susan Rice email on Monday. Did you guys catch this story?
No.
This is crazy. Susan Rice is the old Mike Flynn of yore, okay? And so this email, she sent it to herself to keep a record of a discussion she had with Obama, Biden, and Comey, where Obama told Comey to keep... Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Pouring the wine.
I'm so sorry.
Sweet 16.
Don't apologize.
Anyway, so this was a meeting. It was after an official meeting. They had kind of a side meeting with Obama, Biden, and Comey. Obama told Comey, keep investigating Russia by the book. But then he said, let us know if there's anything we're not supposed to brief the incoming administration on. Mm-hmm. Because of Russia. Like, you know, if you have anything that you need to tell us, you know, and ask Comey to let him know if that were the case. Like, can we brief them on 100% of Russia, knowing that what they've been doing?
That they've been talking to them and that they're potentially under investigation.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, anyway, the Republicans tried to make a scandal out of this email by saying she sent it to herself to establish that the FBI was following the rules. Like everyone knew the FBI wasn't doing the investigation by the book, so she sent a little email to herself saying, Obama told him to do it by the book. But to me, and really anyone with half a brain, this was just a contemporaneous attempt to have a record that the outgoing administration was concerned about briefing the incoming administration on Russia.
Right.
And it took me a really long time to figure out why the GOP, particularly Graham and Grassley, were making this public. They're the ones who released this, declassified it, and sent a letter to Susan Rice asking her WTF. And I sat and I thought about it. I had conversations with friends, somebody I speak to who's a podcast listener, Kevin Burns. I was like, what? I don't even understand, like, what are they talking about? Like, why are the Republicans even bringing this up? This makes them look bad. This just is another piece of evidence that you can't talk to Trump about Russia because he's in on it. And so he finally explained it to me, like, oh, they think, she sent it to basically establish the fact that Obama wanted the investigation done by the book. And did he really, or was the FBI doing it all rogue? And so I thought that was just a really weird set of circumstances that they released that. I'm looking forward to how Susan Rice responds to Grassley and Graham's letter. Grassley and Graham, incidentally, are also the guys who sent the criminal referral to Christopher Steele, or to the DOJ for Christopher Steele.
Yeah.
These guys are turds.
Turds.
Tuesday, the IC leaders, intelligence community leaders, answered questions in an open session of the Senate Intel Committee. Wray was asked about when information was provided to the White House on the background check of Rob Porter. And here was Wray's answer. He said, quote, "The FBI submitted a partial report in March 2017. Then we submitted a complete report to the White House in late July. We got a follow-up inquiry that same month from the White House, and we provided confirmation in November. We closed the inquiry in January, then reopened it when we got additional information in February and submitted that to the White House." So there was an article that was put out that said that the CIA paid like $10 million, but then it got taken down to $1 million and then ended up paying $100,000 to get this intel. And Trump thought, he was like, see, it's ridiculous. But Pompeo said it's completely inaccurate. No one was swindled. We don't pay for information. So shut up. Trump cited that New York Times article in a tweet. And here's his tweet, quote, "According to the New York Times, a Russian sold phony secrets on Trump to the U.S. Asking price was $10 million, brought down to $1 million to be paid over time. I hope people are now seeing that and understanding what's going on here. It's all starting to come out now. Drain the swamp." Yeah, and Pompeo, who's his dude, was like, Pompeo's the one who met with the 3 Russian spy chiefs a couple weeks ago in secret. So he's not like a Trump hater, right? But he's like, no, dude, we didn't pay anyone. Shut up. So the CIA never offered any money to anyone, and in fact testified that the operative that proffered that disinformatia, basically to the U.S. government, proffered the same phony intel to reporters. So when reporters put out the story that the CIA got swindled for $100,000, it was because they also got the disinformation from Russia that they were swindled. It was a disinformation campaign. Also on Tuesday, new reports released indicated that Rachel Brand, the number 3 at the DOJ that quit work to work at Walmart last week, you remember that whole thing that went down? At first they were saying it had nothing to do with the Russia investigation, but now reports are coming out that she was actually worried she might be asked to oversee the Mueller investigation. She was indicating that she was worried that Rosenstein would be fired. Oddly, Walmart began courting Brand right around the time Trump was blustering about firing Rosenstein. Mm-hmm. And another interesting point is that even though we don't want Rosenstein to be fired, he may have to recuse himself if he's questioned about that letter he helped Trump draft to fire Comey. Mm-hmm. It wasn't used, but he did draft that first letter. So, and if you remember last week, I posed the possibility that Trump and the GOP instructed Walmart to make Brand an offer so they didn't have to fire her. Do you remember that? I was like, I think they did colluded with Walmart. Walmart collusion. And outright, Maddow reported the same thing a couple of days later on her show. So I don't feel like my hat is made entirely of tinfoil.
Great minds think alike.
When major news outlets are positing the same theories that I am. Rachel and I were born almost at the exact same time.
No way.
Her neck is far longer and superior to mine.
Literally?
But I think...
That's what I was imagining.
Because she has a short hair, so I'm like, is that...
No, it's true. No matter how short my hair gets, my neck stays the same. She's... I don't know. I love her.
She's the best.
She's badass.
Well, you also have to remember she's entirely just a liberal, demon body.
Yeah, she is a lizard person. We can't forget that.
Yeah, who really are the lizard people here? I would say MSNBC.
Well, I am one of them, if I'm being honest.
Well, I have to say that I model a lot of what we do here after the way she runs her show, because the way that she does it and the way that I like to do it as well is that I give you what the facts are. Mm-hmm. Then I'll come up with whatever theories I want to come up with, but I'll make sure to designate between the two.
Exactly.
That's a very important thing that I do here. And so you guys, when you do your research, you guys do exactly the same thing. And so we like to keep that integrity to the show.
Absolutely.
So you can call us nut jobs about our theories, but the facts are the facts. Yes. So, but again, we only have the fuck you in the heart John Spurlock hater. We only have the one.
He came back around this week.
I know.
Yeah.
I saw just recently. He's like, oh, now you're gonna have to apologize anyway, we'll get to that because that's Friday's news.
He's like, haven't seen the Nancy Drews in a while. Figured I'd stop in and be a fucking troll.
Yeah. He calls us the Nancy Drews.
At least he thinks of it.
I wonder if he jerks off to us.
Well,
They will when the calendars come out.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we also found out that Porter, as you reported last week, part of the Hicks-Lewandowski-Porter love triangle, was actually up for a promotion.
No.
Before he was fired. They wanted him to be deputy chief of staff.
Because he was doing so well.
John Kelly's right-hand man. That's why John Kelly was so butthurt when he left and tried to cover
That's
for
why
him.
he was,
He was like,
that makes sense.
Yeah, he was like, I was his mentor.
Yeah, well, they kept saying he's so good at his job. Doesn't matter if he punched a couple of broads.
That's like, did you like you mentored him like how to beat his wife, or was it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to put any allegations on John Kelly. He's a
True.
decorated war hero, but
They just really like going to boxing gyms with overlays of women's faces. On their bodies.
Just a coincidence.
That's all.
or my favorite
It's
is
a fun
the
thing they did.
the shooting ranges with ladies on the targets. That's
no.
that's great. I wonder how many Hillary shooting targets they've sold in the last.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
Some fun news. Cohen said he paid Stormy Daniels out of his own pocket the $130,000 to keep quiet about sleeping with Trump, though I would not tell anyone for free. You would not have to pay me to not tell people I slept with Donald Trump.
Yes.
Even if
true.
it took down his whole presidency, I'd be like, nope, never happened.
Yeah,
Exactly.
she's like, President, you shouldn't see. This is my reputation.
I think that's where the whole what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas comes from. It's people
Definitely.
fucking Donald Trump.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just the disgusting, again, lizard people.
How can you even get it in? It's not even, like, how would you even know? How would you,
good
first of
point.
all, find? I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to picture it. And I'm sorry for those who just had to.
P-tapes.
PP tapes
Yes.
on the way. Wednesday, Gates, our friend Rick Gates, filed a court document pro se to extend his filing until next week. That means he's defending himself for this particular court document. All right, so remember last week when I reported a small story about Gates making a court appearance to change his counsel again?
Yes.
And I didn't know if it was related to the 2 sealed counsel removal documents he filed the week before, in which he supposedly fired or let go his previous criminal defense attorneys, or if the meeting this week or last week was to remove his current counsel, who also is a longtime friend of Mueller named Tom Green, which is funny if you know the real Tom Green. The
Very
one,
lowbrow.
Tom Green is the one he just hired that gave us a clue that, by hiring him that Gates might be flipping. So anyway, it turns out that he filed this document pro se. Pro se means representing yourself, to ask the court to give him another week to figure out who his lawyer is going to be. He's most certainly out of money. Do you guys remember we reported like mid-December, like right before Christmas, Gates was having a weird fundraiser in a banquet room of a Holiday Inn in Arlington, Virginia, that he himself could not go to because he was under house arrest, so he appeared via teleconference.
That
Do you
is
remember?
So sad.
All right, so you guys remember that, right? The whole teleconference weird Holiday Inn
Right.
fucking fiasco where he's trying to raise $250,000. Well, this dude is out of money. Okay?
Yeah.
Clearly. And he has a young family. He's 45. And good lawyers are not cheap. Somebody estimated that defending yourself in a case like this would cost $1 to $1.5 million.
Oh, my God.
So he's probably singing like Beverly Sills to Mueller right now and trying to figure out what to do about his legal defense. There's got to be someone, though, who'd represent him like pro bono in exchange for good proffer, A proffer, by the way, is what you offer the prosecution on whoever you're flipping on. So like Flynn proffer was what Flynn gave Mueller
Oh, on their side. Okay,
in exchange for his plea deal.
Got it.
So there's got to be somebody who would do this for the investigation, for the good of the investigation, if his proffer is good enough. And it seems as though it is. So, but the fact here is that Gates is broke AF, and he's probably gonna
I read
flip.
somewhere that he said that he was expecting some sort of legal defense fund to come through for him.
Yeah.
And then he's just stood up cold. Just no think tanks at his side.
Hung out to dry. So, and the fact that Manafort's holding so hard, I feel like Trump's paying his legal fees or
He's
something.
got to be.
And so so I think, here we go. We also found out Wednesday that now 134 Trump appointees do not have full security clearance. This from the party who wanted to lock up Hillary for using a private email server, even though there was no evidence found that classified information was compromised at all with Hillary using her private server. And yes, we all agree she shouldn't have used a private server. And you guys wanted to send her to prison for that, but we have 134 Trump appointees who don't even have clearance that are handling classified information.
We'll send them all to the same prison. It seems fair.
I think this is part of an ongoing FBI effort.
Prison of excessive punishment.
It'll be like a Trump prison, so we'll let him design it, but he has to stay there and
Federal pound me in the ass prison.
Ooh, yeah.
From Office Space. I think this is a part of an ongoing FBI effort to tell Trump to go fuck himself. All these leaks about Sorensen and Porter and now 134 more people. Trump keeps being a dick to the FBI, so the FBI's like, all right, you have 134 people who we didn't clear, and we're going to tell the Washington Post about it.
Exactly.
Because all of our sources say, I think the sources are people who work rank and file in the FBI who are tired of being shit on by Trump.
Yeah, it's disrespectful.
Do you know a quick answer for why they're allowed to continue doing work when they don't have a full security clearance?
Yeah, they have a temporary clearance, and the FBI doesn't enforce the clearance; they report it to whatever hiring agency is trying to hire someone and get them clearance. It's up to the agency to determine whether or not they refuse the job to that person. So this is the White House allowing it to continue.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're saying, fuck you, FBI. We've got this.
And I don't know how out of the White House,
really bad.
the fucking White House, the top of the top, you can have 134 people who haven't passed their security clearance. I'm way down at the bottom hiring, clerks.
And they've got to have full
And
security.
none of them didn't pass their security clearance. Now, granted, they weren't looking at top classified information, but they were looking at some stuff that I can't tell you because it would give away my job.
Yeah.
It's confidential.
But the point, is valid, I think. There's a lack of pride, I think, or they just take this position for granted. I mean, the whole administration, or at least the cabinet, seems to just be so disconnected with the average person that cares so much.
Personally, what I think it is that they don't know good enough people. They don't know enough good people.
In their own personal lives?
Yeah.
Ones that can pass the clearance, you mean?
They don't know enough good people.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're scraping the bottom of the barrel for these piece of shit people because they don't know any good people. That's my thought. That's not fact. That is conjecture, but
Makes
it's
sense,
true. All right. Then on Wednesday, you guys, something completely devastating happened. 17 students and faculty were killed in a school shooting in Florida. We don't normally report on things outside of the purview of the Russia probe on this show unless I feel it's so important that it warrants coverage. The only other time we've done this is when Trump disparaged pretty much half the world by calling them shithole countries, which really offended me as a veteran. This shooting is yet another white terrorist with an AR-15 assault rifle piling onto the number of absolutely senseless deaths that hardcore GOP and NRA gun junkies see as justified in order to preserve their weird fucking hobbies. I have just a few points I want to make on this topic. My first point is that the Second Amendment has outlived its usefulness. It's an amendment, which means it can be amended. We have lots of amendments that were amended again. No independent armed militia will ever be able to throw the U.S. military in a coup. So stop saying you need to collect guns to be able to rise up against the government. Also, you spit hate at oppressed people and people of color for exercising their right to free speech when they kneel during the national anthem because you insist it's somehow disrespectful to our troops. But those are the same troops you keep wanting to amass arms to one day rise up against. I don't fucking understand. Knock it off. And finally, personally, no one needs an AR-15 unless you're a lousy shot and a fucking coward. If you hit a target with a single-action rifle or a pistol, if you can't hit a target with a single-action rifle or a pistol, get a new fucking hobby. You suck at guns.
Yeah.
Or try a shotgun with a wider spread. Okay, because you suck at shooting. Dead Americans are not a reasonable trade for your idiotic hobby. And I know that this affected you guys too. So I wanted to give you guys a chance to talk about your thoughts on this just absolutely devastating fucking...
Yeah. I mean, I have a brother in high school who just started his freshman year. And it's just, I mean, even at that age, there's enough going on that to have to deal with that kind of trauma is just, it's ridiculous and totally preventable. So, I mean, we could talk all day about the racism and that goes with this administration. But then I look at the fact that I see white kids dying too, and I'm like, what is going on?
Well, we know that that's the number one reason that they want to have guns, is to protect themselves against people of color.
Yeah,
not a tyrannical government. If they really cared about protecting themselves against a tyrannical government, they would have been cheering when people of color shot all those cops in Dallas, because that was a well-armed, organized militia defending themselves against a tyrannical government. Yeah. So by definition, you can't have one and not the other.
Exactly. I totally agree.
And if you do try to have one and not the other, it's because you're racist. I'm sorry.
Plain and simple, yeah.
I apologize if I lose listeners over this, but I think, and these are just my opinions, you don't have to agree with me at all, but it needs to be talked about, because something absolutely has to be done. We can't just keep saying it's too soon to talk about it, because by the time you're ready, we've already had 18 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was something about this one, and it's so sad and horrible that we're explaining it in terms like that. This one is just things that, they continually happen over and over and over again, but I feel like the energy about this one is just, you can see it already. Immediate action, there was a speech by this amazing girl who...
These kids are fucking pissed.
Yeah, they're hardcore advocates. They've been politicized by this event immediately because there's no other option. Mm-hmm. It's just to the point where it's beyond any sort of rationalization. It doesn't make any sense to anybody at all. The only thing that can happen is just to change the one thing that is allowing so many people to die at one point in time. And that's a fucking AR-15.
Just
how
take
easy
it away.
it is.
Take it away from regular people. It doesn't make any sense.
Take it away from everyone. If you want to shoot a military gun, join the fucking military.
There you go.
And I grew up in Las Vegas, and I had a lot of friends and family that were at the festival that happened when the last massacre happened. Yeah. And
terrifying.
It's terrifying. And it's
all white guys with AR-15s.
Right? No one's safe. To me, that means that even as a black person, it's like, well, like, we both have a chance of dying at this kind of thing. Because
I don't understand what white people are so fucking pissed about.
Well, I mean,
you mean like why they're committing these shootings?
You're white.
The white nationalist.
You have
I think maybe he was a white nationalist, but he was like...
He was.
He probably... Yeah, but he also had other things going on.
He had also been diagnosed as autistic. I read something that was...
Did he target people of color? Because to me, I think maybe the white nationalist thing is problematic, but also maybe not his motive for the shooting.
Yeah, no, and I'm not... When I say these are white dudes, I'm not talking about motive. I'm talking about you're the winner.
Yeah, what are you complaining about?
You're the winners in the skin color contest of the world.
They don't see it that way. They see it as their own struggles, which I understand. Everyone has their own struggle, but to them, to get to that point, it's like, perspective is just lost in that sense.
It's also just isolation and radicalization. Mm-hmm. These people, the group that he was a part of, he was a part of a white nationalist group,
he needed more friends of color, honestly. He needed more people to be like, hey, like, whatever you think of us, like, you're just brainwashed, dude. Like, it's not like that in the real world.
The spokesperson for the white nationalist group that he had trained with released a statement saying, it was almost, honestly, very darkly comical, because he's saying, look, all we do is isolate ourselves from the rest of colored society and occasionally go out and do demonstrations
and this
in
is
the
what
regular
happens.
world. But that guy acted all on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And over 40% of this high school's population were Jewish kids. Mm-hmm. So there's people saying...
Mrs. Parkland voted the safest city in Florida.
It almost makes no sense, right? So I feel like something else. Racism is definitely a huge
there's
issue.
A lot of people not saying that it's necessarily an anti-Semitic, fueled act, but just the very idea that it's this essentially like almost 50% of the population is Jewish.
Yeah, I forget that.
A part of a white nationalist. Yeah, the group that he was in. It's just their symbol is what it's like a. They call themselves the Republic of Florida.
I forget Nazis also hate white people. As a black person, it's so funny that I forget that because it makes no sense. It's like the oppression is almost the same in that kind of community. Yeah. It's like they hate Jews, they hate blacks, they hate
people as unhuman.
and it's crazy because it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be able to distinguish you two in a crowd. So like, what is your problem? Like racism, I don't get, but I kind of see wait.
Look up, there's Tamara Katan, who's a comedian, does a really great piece on this where he talks about the reason is because he compares racism and hatred to a drug addiction. Mm. It feels good for a minute. but it will rot you from the inside out.
The power.
Yeah. You feel a part of something.
That is
it's just
spot
the wrong
on.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys, if you get a chance to listen to Tamara Katan, very prolific, hilarious comedian, but also very prolific man in his own right. So.
Definitely.
But yeah, sorry, last thing on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or last thing I want to say on this.
Yeah.
One of my friends, ex-friend, she blocked me on Facebook over this thing that happened. It was really stupid. But she was at the shooting in Vegas that happened, and or her family was. I'm fairly certain she was. I know that all of her family was.
Okay.
But she posts this thing about this shooter from Parkland, and it says, "Look at this guy's face. This is clearly a mentally ill face." It's this post that went viral, and it says that this shooting happened as a result of the pussification, quote unquote, of this country. When our kids don't even know what bathrooms they're supposed to use, or they don't, and starts bringing in all of these liberal causes. It's insane. And
all right, so since 99.99% of these shootings are done by men, can we assume that men are only mentally ill?
Yeah.
So, can you stop calling us fucking crazy ex-girlfriends then?
Yeah.
You gaslighting pieces of shit?
Seriously.
Yeah, just so much gaslighting. And then
it doesn't have to do with mental illness. I'm sorry. That's what the answer is.
But also to say he has a mental ill face, it's like, what do you even think mental illness is?
Yeah.
What is a mentally ill face?
Like, how weird
do I have like a PTSD tattoo on my forehead?
Right. Like it's
what?
it's not always so obvious. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Sorry, just to wrap up. At the end, it says, stop blaming Trump. Stop blaming people that have done nothing to actually further the root causes of all of this. You know, Trump's never... Don't blame Trump. He hasn't done anything in relation to... any
You're right. He hasn't done anything.
But he did. Because then, this is how I got blocked. I commented, how can you possibly say this 1 year ago? Essentially, Trump signed a bill that makes it easier for people with mental illness
with mentally ill faces.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though Obama tried to prevent that, he actually rolled back that law. So it was an active, conscious decision. It's not just a willy-nilly that just accidentally signed something.
I think it was willy-nilly in the fact that it was just reversing something Obama did.
Fair enough. Absolutely.
And also that he got all that money from the NRA. That
$30 million.
But he chose his
funneled through
side.
Russians. And by the way, that is the connection and why we're talking about this, is because this money comes from Russia.
Yes, and appropriately, Donald Trump releases this tweet. He says, very sad that the FBI missed all of the many signals sent out by the Florida school shooter. This is not acceptable. They are spending too much time trying to prove Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. There is no collusion. Get back to the basics and make us all proud. Fuck you, you disgusting piece of shit.
He did a 2-for-1. He did a...
How disgusting is that?
It's the
You
worst.
can replace pretty much from now on, every time he says Russian collusion, you can replace the words Russian collusion with my small dick.
Basically.
I just cannot believe... That's the lowest...
Stop talking about my small dick and get back to the basics.
Anyone else that I know, I truly believe would think twice about doing something like that. Like, it shows that he just doesn't care. His filter is just non-existent. You know, like he just has no sense of shame, and all he cares about is clearing his name. I was watching a Watergate documentary before this episode, and I was just like, wow, Nixon was like a watered down Trump. Like,
all the president's men. Not the movie, but it's
and Trump
scary.
And Trump has the audacity to say people will politicize this incident, where he just brought in Russian collusion in the same tweet that he's talking about any failures that may have led to the deaths of children. It's
ridiculous.
And by the way, if I read a tweet, if I or any of my children or anyone I know get shot by an AR-15 in a mass shooting, politicize the fuck out of it immediately. I won't be upset.
Yeah.
As long as it gets something done, I say.
That's the whole point.
It's politics. It's government. You got to talk about it to do something about it, you know?
Well, we'll see. This Congress is pretty much bought.
This Congress, I can't wait. I mean, I know that...
Well, I tweeted, my first thought was the first thing that we have to do is work as hard as we can to flip the Congress so that we can do what we need to do.
Yes. Don't be discouraged by the fact that Russia is trying to still hack us, and the fact that the president's helping them. I know that's a lot to take in, but I do feel like there is hope that our vote will still count for something, information, getting the word out about the hacking and letting people know that if this is what it comes down to, when we all know who we want to be in these positions of power and what happens, like if we get hacked again, I don't think people will. Well, I mean, successfully to the point where, let's say we all vote blue. We know it. Like, it's a true blue wave, and we get screwed over again. I don't know about you, but I'm going to start making my own marches. Like, I'm just going to start every day.
we have two obstacles to make up. First of all, we have to get over the Russian interference that's going to happen that will try to prevent the blue wave.
Right.
And then we also have to get over the gerrymandering that exists True. Intrinsically to where we have to have, I think, 9 points on Republicans to be even. Mm-hmm. So
it's a lot, but it's possible. I mean...
Well, you guys, thank you for letting us get political for a second. I know this really isn't I've made promises that this isn't a politically motivated podcast, and we stick within the scope of the Mueller investigation. But I did contact Rod Rosenstein and asked him if I could go out the scope, and he said, yeah.
Yeah, he gave a thumbs up emoji text.
He actually just goes, yeah. And he said I could. So this is... Perfect. This is mind-bogglingly important, and I really appreciate you guys giving us a minute to talk about it. So yes. Let's take a quick break, and we'll get back to this week's news. Thank you for listening to Mueller, She Wrote. If you want to help us make this show, we will love you eternally. It's really easy. Just go to MuellerSheWrote.com and click on subscribe now, and in return, you'll get ad-free episodes and all sorts of awesome merch you can choose from, like stickers, t-shirts, a tote bag, and our Sexy Justice calendar coming in April. You'll also have access to all of our bonus content, including our newsletter, my show notes, and links to all the articles and photos we discuss on the show. We couldn't possibly love you guys more, so thank you for listening. Hi, we're back, and we're ready to continue with the week's news. We're ready to go on to Thursday. You ready for Thursday?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we found out via WAPO. Okay. Via WAPO sounds weird. Via is Latin for by way of, and WAPO is Alice. Excuse me. WAPO is
so far from the truth.
WAPO is AG for Washington Post.
Yes.
We found out via WAPO that Trump asked McGahn to call Dana Bente to pressure him to publicly exonerate the president. We reported this in episode 10, which was a beautiful episode you should check out if you haven't heard it. Mm-hmm. Mueller had handwritten notes from Reince Priebus.
Mole, 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 mole.
that Trump had also asked him to call Bente because Comey refused to publicly do it. And he instructed Trump he'd have to go through the Justice Department. He's like, I'm FBI, dude. I can't do that. You got to go through the Justice Department. And at the time, it was Dana Bente who was the acting Deputy Attorney General because Sessions recused. This is a revolving door of asinine craziness. But,
absolutely.
But Bente came from the Eastern District of Virginia and then moved over there and then went back and then was removed. And then now he's the FBI General Counsel.
Yes, it's pretty sweet. It's like a plot twist, like a season finale.
I don't even remember. It's pretty ridiculous. But anyway, Jaleesa is going to go into some detail about this information in a bit. So, so stick around for that. Bannon spoke to Mueller for over 20 hours behind closed doors this week, then appeared to the House Intelligence Committee per his subpoena that was postponed from the week prior, and he didn't say shit to them. Basically, he was there for 4 hours, and he would only answer 25 White House-approved questions. So that's the fact.
Well, how is that?
Well, that's the fact. My theory is that he's gagged by Mueller. Because special counsel is trying to make sure none of the testimony gets back to the White House.
Well, essentially, then you're saying he kind of had to have flipped.
Well, yeah. Well, he spent 20 hours with Mueller, and he said he was going to tell Mueller everything.
Yeah, he did.
And he's not saying shit to the House Intelligence Committee, and I think that he's gagged, but he can't tell anyone that he's gagged. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 50 Shades of Bannon. It's disgusting.
So.
Yes. We found out Thursday that Gates is finalizing his plea deal. In addition... and additional charges are going to be filed against Manafort and Gates. Mm-hmm. Put a pin in this because more news comes out Friday. Also, Thursday, Bloomberg reported that the IRS and the Department of Justice filed subpoenas to lenders and investors in real estate projects managed by the Kushner family. So these are, this isn't the Mueller investigation. This is the IRS and the Department of Justice. Whoa, okay. Yeah, sweet. Then came Friday. On Friday, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, announced the special counsel had issued 13 indictments against Russians, plus 1 American. I'll go into this in more detail later in the show.
Yes.
But we have more indictments, you guys.
Yes, we do.
So cathartic.
Mm-hmm. Huge yet small. And I'll get into that.
Okay.
The Daily Beast reported Friday Kellyanne Conway and Donald Trump Jr. Pushed messages from an account operated by a Russian troll farm, including allegations of voter fraud 11 days before the election. Are you laughing at the term Russian troll farm?
I am.
I just... do you see first?
You see the troll dolls growing up through the frozen tundra, don't you?
I think of an ant farm that I could just like take home with me, like a tiny little Russian troll farm. I can shake it, you know?
Just shake it.
They're really mad now.
Yeah. I imagine just a bunch of gnomes inhabiting like an agricultural, sort of
like a little slavery thing going on.
But they're like, cute. They're like
cute slaves.
We're happy little gnomes.
Little bridge trolls.
Just exposing, secrets.
I like it.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Trolls. Trolle. Then, late Friday night, Mueller filed a document with the court threatening further charges of bank fraud on Paul Manafort.
Mm-hmm.
The actual charge wasn't levied. He didn't actually file a charge, though. He just threatened. He said, I got stuff that could lead to bank fraud. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason he did this was to show that Manafort is violating his bail agreement. Kind of the intent of that bail agreement. Like, I'm not going to talk to Russians. I'm not going to say...
No media,
nothing. I don't know why
he's
got a Trump voice right now. Everyone on House Trump has a Trump voice.
They all have the same voice.
But I think this was to show the court that he's acting in bad faith against his bail agreement so that his bail would be revoked and Manafort would be held in custody until trial. This would help prevent Manafort from pushing back his trial date because you don't want to sit around in jail for any longer than you have to.
Right.
Particularly federal pound me in the ass prison. So
wait, Manafort's in jail?
Not yet.
No.
Oh,
okay. He's trying to push it off as much as he can.
Okay,
Yeah, and we're trying to.
I thought he was
I say
pretty.
we like.
And what's really cool is the timing, because the night before, Gates was like, maybe I'll flip it.
Oh.
And then all of a sudden, next day, I could threaten to charge you, Manafort, and basically to get his. I don't know why, but I think it is. They haven't said why, but I think it's to get his bail revoked, so he has to sit in prison.
That makes sense.
And he's got to be in custody until his trial, so that he will not push his trial back because Mueller needs to get this shit done.
I hope that's the way it's going to play out.
Yeah, well, it would be the sweetest to have the guy who invented the lock her up chant, which he stole from the Russians, by the way. It would be great to have him sit in jail while he awaits trial.
Oh, he didn't create it? Okay, I thought that he was more of an originator of that.
Well, he got it from the Russians and used it in the Ukraine.
That's right. Okay, yes.
Yeah, so it's an old Russian thing to jail your opponents. That's an old tactic. In fact, there's about 96 different Trump campaign tactics that come from Russia.
Everything is so fucked.
And Friday, Kushner amended again his financial disclosure forms.
Oh my God, his privilege is frustrating.
One more thing. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I can't deal with this.
Oh no,
she's just being
That was
your
me.
impression of.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, your impression of Jared Kushner.
Yeah, good old one more thing Kushner.
And another thing.
Jared and another thing Kushner.
I wasn't lying. I just didn't disclose it.
Oh, his face is frustrating.
And let's see, sadly, on Saturday night, Trump went on one of his stable genius Twitter meltdowns. And in one tweet, it's the same tweet you brought up earlier. He blamed the FBI for the Florida shooting. I'd read it again, but we've already read it, and it kind of makes me sick to my stomach. So,
oh yeah.
All right, you guys. It's time to talk to Jordan and Jaleesa and get their hot notes.
Hot notes.
As Shannon would say.
Yeah, I like that. Hashtag hot notes.
Hashtag hot notes. Jaleesa, you have some information for me on Don McGahn. Tell us what you got.
Oh, yeah. So we all know Don McGahn is one of Trump's main White House lawyers. And they have like an interesting relationship right now. It seems like they're kind of on the rocks. Yeah, Trump ordered him to talk to the FBI to get them to say that Trump was not under investigation. So that was one of the first times that he did actually make the call to Bente, but they weren't able to successfully convince Comey. Of course not. He's Comey. But like that was like one of the times that I guess McGahn failed Trump is the idea. So he's kind of letting Trump down. And then there was also...
Yeah, basically anyone who's not able to obstruct justice hard enough...
is a disappointment. Oh yeah, he disowns them.
It's like that little prawn in Finding Nemo. I am so ashamed.
Oh my God, I love that guy.
Right?
The French prawn.
I am so ashamed.
I am
so cute. So there was also with the Sally Yates incident when she basically warned the White House about Flynn. McGahn was the contact. So that was the person that Yates sent the message to saying, hey, this guy might have lied to us about the Russians.
He's the contact for pretty much everything.
Everything.
He's reporter.
Yeah. He's been in every scandal. So
yeah, he's kind of a central figure.
Mm-hmm. And he's Trump's main man.
And he has the same lawyer as Bannon and Priebus.
Yes.
Mole, 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 mole.
So McGahn's also, he's in the center of the Rob Porter scandal because he also was informed as early as January of last year about the domestic violence allegations against Porter that were discovered by the FBI. So McGahn's primary role in all these controversies, pretty much the fact that he can't make Trump look good in them, is what's leading to their tension. And people have been saying, like, they're having some pretty spectacular fights. And someone close to him actually said that he doesn't think that Trump hates McGahn for the way he's handled things. He just feels like Trump's really used to lawyers that just do what he says, and McGahn's not that kind of guy. So they're at a point
Do you know how
where...
many dirty lawyers Trump's had?
Seriously. And Ty Cobb's, he's like the one that Trump actually likes because Cobb is like pretending that the White House is like going along with the investigation, and he's like, yeah, we'll answer every question, and McGahn is like, shut up. Like, it just seems like
McGahn's not Trump's lawyer.
He's the White House lawyer. Yeah, right. You're right. There is a difference. Yeah, but I think Trump also forgets that.
He shares the same 3 defendants, right? McGahn, who are his 3 defendants? He has...
No. He and Bannon and Priebus have the same lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, McGahn's lawyer's lawyer.
The lawyer that got a lawyer.
That's right.
It is a lot. We have several charts that need to be made about this. But yeah
this is true.
McGahn is the White House's lawyer, not Trump's lawyer. But Trump is mad at him about not defending him better. So that's an issue.
Who's McGahn's lawyer again?
Burke.
Okay,
makes me think of Grey's Anatomy. I don't know. Oh, Burke.
So McGahn's there serving at the pleasure of the president until the president decides to get rid of him, which sounds like he's probably tried to do a million times.
You think so?
But his actual lawyer, Trump's lawyers are probably like, dude, just don't. He's on your side, and he's kind of knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. But I think he's also, he's got the same lawyer as Bannon and Priebus. So yeah, I don't know. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to Jordan for Devin Dirt.
Yes, Devin Nunes. Uh-huh. Devin no-tilde Nunes, and that's fine.
Because he's Portuguese, and Portuguese. We respect no-tildes.
And he's not stripping himself of his culture, and us white people have decided that that's just fine.
Absolutely. I love it.
We support you and your no-tildes.
Yes. Having never seen a tilde used in my life and any of my immediate family.
Oh, good point.
There's a great article that Newsweek put out that AG referenced at the top of the show. Mm-hmm. Its headline is, we'll include it in the newsletter for those of you that subscribe as well. So if you want to follow along with this segment, make sure to go to Patreon and subscribe. But the headline of the article, if you want to cheat the system and just look it up, is Nunes memo reveals congressman's penchant for conspiracy theory. So essentially, this is an article that starts off, it's very long first off, but it's a long account essentially of Nunes' history, specifically his history with Michael Flynn, and just the continual dirt that seems to be coming up for his potential opponents to use against him in the upcoming elections, which is looking like it's going to be someone named Jan Z. He called himself, quote unquote, probably the happiest man in the country after the Nunes memo, because essentially it just discredited Nunes.
Yeah, he just dug himself his own grave.
Yeah. And so this article goes on, it talks a little bit about the memo and how it was more or less now kind of being regarded as something that came in a fury and then just fizzled, basically. Just, it's very, their sources, there are things that are being reported on that, speak about the people that helped him get the documents, for example, and their sort of corrupt and partisan ties, and it's just very easily discredited, the memo, honestly.
Right.
And so that's just one small facet of Nunes. In this article, we get to learn of a few different things and a different theory for maybe how he was so politicized and how he's come to be this person that is an unprecedented person holding the chair position that he has.
Is he unprecedented or unprecedented?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah. But he is, by pretty much all colleagues that I would say are of any sort of credible dissent, are saying that his position, his partisanry, is absolutely unprecedented, never been seen in the House Intelligence Committee. The chair of the House.
That's pretty intense.
Partisanry.
Yeah.
I like
Thank
that
you. I just
word.
made that up and it flowed, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep going.
That's
But
kudos.
yeah, thank you. People in this article, the person that wrote it is sort of making the assertion that Nunes was extremely politicized by Michael Flynn, which is an interesting thing to think about, considering Flynn has been gone for a little bit now, and we don't really, we don't talk about him too much in detail.
True.
So this is a nice read.
Yeah.
Nunes has been, on record saying that he had a really, really close relationship with Flynn, says that he's, one of the greatest people that's been in that position ever, and just shows this reverence for him that has clearly maybe sort of transferred into the position that he's holding right now.
Yeah.
So we look at some things. For example, Nunes was speaking just 5 months after Flynn had startled many former military officers by leading lock her up chants against Hillary Clinton. Just all of these things that are super in line with what he's doing right now as in his position as the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. So Nunes was always backing Flynn up when, they were conspiracy theorists together in a lot of ways. One of the examples of these conspiracies that Flynn and Nunes seem to double down on together was they think that they wanted to see the release of the documents captured from bin Laden's lair, because they wholehearted believe that those documents would show a closer relationship between Al-Qaeda and Iran than the Obama White House, led everyone to believe.
The White House that killed bin Laden?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
not good enough, he says.
Just checking.
We gotta kill him more.
Yeah, I don't want him dead. I want everything.
Kill him a lot. If you guys are old enough to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes, And then, in a classic Nunes move, he goes on to demand from the CIA. He tries to essentially sneak. They say he, sneaks in sort of to try to see the documents on a Saturday and demands that he sees these documents.
Saturday.
Yes.
Saturday.
And then this is reported in a very mocking tone, and then of course Nunes denied that excursion, they call it, ever happened. And it was at the Central Command headquarters too, so he just is going and thinking,
Well, he was the guy who sashayed down to the White House in a probably a really a run. I can't even picture how he runs, but remember when he ran to the White House to say, "Oh, there's documents that have just been released."
Yeah, he went back and forth,
and it turns out he got him from the White House, and then that's why he had to recuse himself from Russia. He is drama.
So much drama.
He is Real Housewives of the White House.
Oh, definiter.
Yeah.
Patent pending. We gotta make that.
So much drama, and trauma. It's all very traumatic.
Never mind, going into patent law. Continue.
Yeah. Patent law is a side podcast. Where all the belt wearing, Reebok wearing fucks go and listen to patent law. Okay, but anyway, just another example. Here's another one from it. So Nunes concurred with Flynn's insistence that Tehran was involved with the 2012 attacks on the U.S. consulate and annex in Benghazi, and he oversaw a 2-year investigation into the incident, focusing on what Republicans had portrayed as the Obama administration's inept responses. So this guy has a history, along with Michael Flynn, who is now, as we know, flipped and is just working with Mueller.
Flynn.
They have a history together of essentially just being... I don't want to be super hyperbolic here and label them as conspiracy theorists, because I believe in people questioning the government and whatever's happening, whatever.
For sure.
But I will say that they're unfounded claims that they relentlessly pursue. So I don't know if that's...
I think there's a difference between conspiracy theorists and politicos who are trying to come up with dirt on the opposing party.
Right.
Conspiracy theorists honestly believe what they're saying. I don't think Nunes actually believes that there's some sort of grand conspiracy. I think this is either grandstanding or he conspired with the White House to do this. I think he's acting, and he's clearly a farmer and not an actor.
He's a puppet, he's being bought maybe to some degree.
I haven't met too many farmers that are good actors. I'm sure they exist.
Right.
But he's not one of them. And just to see
him...
to
act like they weren't attracted to those cows the whole time.
Sexy ass cows.
Back of his hand on his forehead, oh my, I have to run to the White House. Oh, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies, Miss Scarlett. and he's just the worst.
Yeah.
Like, and so conspiracy theorists actually think like Donald Trump is one. He actually believes what he thinks or what he says. Nunez, I think he's lying out of his fucking teeth.
You might be right.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, sorry. Just to wrap up. Thanks for letting us get a little loosey goosey on our Sweet 16. Everyone.
You're welcome.
But so Nunes says that he says that he talks to Flynn virtually every day when they were working together, and that there's not like a day that goes by that he doesn't. It sounds like another love affair.
It sounds like he misses him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be love, I guess. It could
bromance.
Yes, a bromance, perchance.
Yeah.
But
they're boning.
Which is totally fine.
And Cohen paid one of them.
Just don't make the whole country pay for it.
There you go.
Cohen paid one of them $130,000 to not talk about it.
Oh my god!
I don't know which one.
Yes, but this is a great article. There are so many instances that they lay out. There's even Flynn's ties to Turkey and how Nunes ties into those. It's just a very they're
very interconnected.
Yeah, and there's a lot of conjecture in this article, I will say, but it is based on a lot of facts and tips from people whose I would say their general tone matches what the implications are of some of the things that are more conjecture.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, Flynn crook flipped and is now, hopefully helping stop out the other crooks. Nunes, I would say
they were homies.
They were homies. They were for sure homies. Yes, and his unprecedented politicization.
That's the line kicking in there.
Politicization. No, that's the English language.
Yeah, public school failed me. Yeah.
But that's them.
You sound like an emo song. Public school failed me. I don't know what I can be. I don't know.
That's good. Okay, yeah.
Anyway,
I can be in any band.
Nunes is supposed to be the head of this investigation that should be met with a lot of integrity. I don't need to say these things to our listeners.
He has nothing. He's supposed to be recused. He's full of shit.
Yeah.
All right, the end.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, apparently, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan. Not apparently, thank you, but I was moving on to the next thing. I am going to break down this 37-page indictment of 13 Russians for you.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to do it pretty quickly. Let me start by framing this news of the 13 indictments into a little context for everyone. I'm sure you've all seen the videos on social media or on the show Cosmos or whatever that show us where the Earth is in the solar system, where the solar system is in the Milky Way galaxy, and where the Milky Way galaxy is in the local group of galaxies and the tiny sections of millions of group of galaxies and the giant expanse of the universe, right? Like, so it just keeps going and going and going. Well, this group of indictments is like that in my head. It's a speck of sand on a beach of sexy justice. Let's just say that. This came on like Donkey Kong, first of all. But really, all this is one group of 13 dudes, Russian dudes, who started a ground operation in the United States using fake IDs to pose as politicos in an effort to swing the election. Yes, it's a huge and expensive, complex operation, much like the Earth is a vast, giant biosphere of billions of species, oceans, like the depths, the things we haven't even discovered yet. It's super complex as a system. But in reference to the scope of the Mueller investigation, these indictments are pretty small, just like the Earth is pretty small in reference to the universe. So this indictment is one of 5 pillars of one of the 3 aspects of the entire investigation. It's hugely significant and very complex, super detailed. Like, the detail is astounding. Yet it's also just one tiny little sector of what Mueller is working on. In my view, these indictments serve 2 purposes and 2 purposes only. Mueller didn't have to release this to the public. And none of these Russians are going to be indicted or extradited or come to court or tried or anything. We're probably never going to find them. And this is what we call a speaking indictment. And he did it for a couple of reasons. And this is what I think. I can't imagine to know the depth and breadth of Mueller's strategy, but here's my take on it. Reason number 1 is to shed light on the fact that the Russians meddled in our elections.
Yes.
Now, most of us sane people know that.
Recognize that as fact.
But that whole press conference that Rod Rosenstein was for one person. It was for Donald Trump to say, hey, motherfucker, the Russians actually really did meddle in your elections.
I even have roommates now that are like, hey, have you heard that the Russians had troll factories? I was like, yeah, I heard a year ago, but I'm so glad you know it now.
Well, and it worked for a minute, right? Trump admitted the Russians were meddling in our elections. Finally. Like, he didn't say that he'd do anything about it, but he finally admitted it after years in a tweet.
After saying it was China or some fat guy.
Right, 400-pound dude.
Yeah.
The second reason, was to fortify Rod Rosenstein's job. So Rod Rosenstein had two jobs that day. Get up and tell Trump that the Russian meddling was real. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I've been watching the Olympics, and whenever they say Russians meddled, I'm like, yeah.
I saw that tweet. That is so good.
In the Olympics, they've been mentioning...
Well, medal, like getting a medal in the Olympics, but like it's funny.
Got it, in a cute pun way. Okay, sorry.
I dig it.
They're like, the Russians meddled, and I'm like, yeah.
Yes, they did.
So his job was to get up and tell Trump, basically, hey, dude, this is real. The Russians meddled in our elections. And number two, can't fire me now, bitch. That was his number two reason. Like, you cannot fire him now. I mean, you can, but
it would look even worse.
Extra stupid to do that.
Extra stupid. I like that.
So yeah, if Trump wants Rosenstein out now, he'll have to maybe go to Walmart and get him to offer him a job or something. Huh?
Try Kmart.
Yeah. So Trump and his supporters think that this indictment proves his innocence, that it exonerates him, which shows what idiots they are. First of all, indictments charge people with crimes. They do not prove innocence. Okay, so Rosenstein was clear and careful in his statements when he said, the allegations in this indictment do not include any Americans. And the allegations in this indictment do not prove influence on the outcome of the election.
Right.
That is a clear indication that there are more indictments to come. Yet it also gives, like, Trump sort of a, hey, see, I didn't, what? You're stupid. You think that all I'm saying is that you aren't at fault here.
Yeah, so they'll probably spill the beans thinking that they're safe, right?
Well, yeah, and there was also another indictment of an American named Pinedo, no tilde Pinedo.
The one from California?
He might also be Portuguese, I don't know. A Californian, right, who apparently got the fake IDs for these Russians so they could open bank accounts to fund their efforts.
So they could go clubbing on us.
Yeah, clubbing seals. Sorry, it's not okay.
What are you talking about? Jesse Egan?
Yeah.
Here's the timeline for you to consider, though, regarding this indictment. While, yes, this indictment does not tie anyone in the Trump campaign by name, it does mention 3 of his operatives. But think about this. Trump tweeted Friday, after the news of the indictments broke, that Russia had started their anti-U.S. campaign in 2014, long before I announced I would run for president. He said this, hoping that you'd all think that he had nothing to do with this arm of the investigation. But Trump told the Russians he'd been running for president in November of 2013, is when he told the Russians he was running for president. Cohen, the guy who paid Stormy Daniels $130,000 out of his pocket, that's a big pocket, did an interview with the New York Post saying he had started polling for a Trump run. That was in spring of 2013. Within weeks, Russia bid for the Miss Universe pageant, which they overpaid $20 million for.
Interesting.
There's a ton of evidence for this, including tweets from Russian delegates that were supposed to meet him at the pageant, that ended up meeting him at the pageant. Within weeks of that deal, the Russian operation covered in this indictment began. Within weeks, this 2014 thing began. I believe Mueller will be able to tie Trump directly to the operation mentioned in these indictments. There was a very telling statement in the indictments that read, quote, Russian defendants knowingly and intentionally conspired with each other and with persons known and unknown to the grand jury to defraud the United States.
Okay.
To me, that says this indictment is about known, unwitting Americans. But there are more indictments coming for unknown people that the Russians conspired with.
Yeah, also, the unwitting phrase sort of sent off an alarm in my heart for a second, because I was like, oh no, is that him admitting that saying that all of these Trump campaign officials were unwitting?
It's possible.
But, no, I don't think so, though.
Really?
Because
that's what makes this a tiny piece, in complex as it is, a tiny, kind of almost insignificant piece in this giant puzzle.
Because what I came to...
These are 13 dudes who came up, dressed up like Americans, learned to talk like Americans, got fake IDs from this dude in California, and hung around and tried to do campaign rallies and get people to dress up like Hillary Clinton in a prison uniform in a cage. They did this. These weren't the top-level MRFers that were conspiring with Trump.
Yeah.
But they may have been conspiring with Analytica, what's it called? Cambridge Analytica, which is Kushner's company. But yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah. And also, we should include a link. I saw a link that actually had the actual Facebook ads that Russia had used.
Oh, the Hillary's the devil or something.
Yeah,
I
just
those,
really,
dude.
like, very graphically detailed.
I remember thinking, like, wow, Americans suck. Like, this is really awful. But it was probably the Russians exaggerating our hatred.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But then I had this thought when I read the unwitting line that there's no way that special counsel is going to
let it slide.
He's not going to give us any clues as to the findings of the other ongoing investigation.
So it's probably just
within that small
more
statement,
rope, right?
Yeah,
he's just like, hey, let's see who thinks they're safe.
Yeah, well, not only that, but he's not going to tip his cards. He's just
never.
Exactly.
Yeah. So whatever they say is not the whole thing.
These indictments serve two purposes: to fortify Rod Rosenstein's job,
right,
and to tell Trump that the Russian collusion is real.
There's still plenty of time.
The rest of it, and that's why he was very careful to say this indictment doesn't allege these things. This indictment doesn't allege these things. Otherwise, he would have said something completely different.
Exactly, that makes sense. Yeah.
And it's important to note Trump has not denounced the Russian interference yet, nor has he moved to impose the sanctions that Congress overwhelmingly passed. So instead of coming out and saying, if they did, I don't want to have anything to do with it, and we need to get to the bottom of it. No, he's just like,
silent.
My dick is small and I won.
Oh, that's right.
And you know collusion, and my dungeons are falling out.
Yeah, he has also been caught in these Twitter wars, sort of him in the past saying that the whole thing was a hoax, the Russian investigation.
Oh yeah, his tweets have not ended well.
There's a whole Reddit
subreddit
dedicated to like Trump tweets that don't age well.
Contradictions. Yeah. Yeah, but now he almost suspiciously is saying, well, I said that it was either the Russians or the Chinese or
it was A, B, or C, give me some credit. Multiple choice.
Yeah, that's like, wasn't it Tuesday? No, it was Wednesday. That's why I said, wasn't it? All right, you guys, time for questions and comments.
Yeah.
Marsha Snavely secretly hopes that I'm actually James Comey speaking in a really high voice.
That would be cool.
SD Jeep Girl promised us some of her mom's homemade burritos. Yeah.
Please.
Thank you.
Chris Bliss asked our opinion on Drew and Bernstein, Drew and Bernstein reported saying that the Trump investigation is nothing like Watergate, but that he had found many parallels. And I agree, there are parallels. Tons. But I think that the reason that Bernstein and Drew are saying that this is not anything like Watergate is because it's 10 million times worse. Yeah. Watergate was Americans against Americans. This is...
foreign enemies.
Yeah, this is foreign entities. So, that's...
different, yeah.
Bigger. At Melanie Marquita asked us to give a shout out to Philip Mudd. Philip Mudd is an ex-FBI agent who came on after the shooting and lost his composure. I don't know if you remember watching him saying, this was a child of God. These were children of God. And then he couldn't speak anymore. But he is a commentator a lot on CNN, MSNBC. And he's just a fantastic public servant, and I do want to give him a shout out. So thank you for pointing that out. She also asked what we thought of this week's indictments, and if they could foreshadow anything for Cambridge Analytica, and that's what I was telling you earlier. I think that they do. So, I mean, if you think about, again, the Cambridge Analytica and all that stuff with the Kushner conspiracies isn't mentioned in this indictment. Again, these are just 13 dudes.
Totally. Well, not totally separate, but they are separate.
I'm not sure how involved Cambridge Analytica was, but there are other things that Cambridge Analytica was deeply involved with.
I like the pillars idea you were saying. It's like one of several pillars.
One of 5 of one of 3. Yeah.
Nice.
At Verbal Jungle asked us what Kamala Harris...
love her.
Okay. Verbal Jungle asked us about what Kamala Harris brought up in the opening hearing with the IC directors. That open hearing with all the heads of the FBI.
Yeah, when she went in on them, yeah.
She asked if Trump could declassify Russia intel given to him by sources outside the Mueller investigation. I think that he has. That's what the Nunes memo was.
Oh, yeah.
He was given that information from the House Intelligence Committee. It came outside the Mueller investigation. DOJ and FBI gave him that intelligence in hopes that he wouldn't share it with anyone.
Right.
But he did that, and I think he could again. It would be ill-advised, though, as it would just continue to add to his mountain of obstruction of justice charges.
Yeah.
At Pragmatic Hippie wanted to know if there's no one willing to prosecute a crime, does it go away? Or does it stay a pending case? Well, with the grand jury is the one who decides whether a crime there's enough evidence to take it to trial. If there's not, the grand jury will not indict.
Right.
So that's pretty much what an indictment is. I mean, do you remember all of these unarmed black teenager shootings where they take the cop to the grand jury and the grand jury does not indict them? They fail to indict them, saying that we don't have enough evidence.
Right.
That's kind of where the decision point is with the grand jury.
In that level, yeah.
So if the grand jury indicts someone, they believe there is enough evidence to take it to trial.
Wow.
And it will go to trial.
Yeah.
We helped out Nama Haviv. She had a job interview.
Woo.
And I wanted to recognize her because she said that they brought up Gates flipping and she brought up our podcast and sounded like a boss.
I love it.
That's what we're here for, you guys. Just some of the conversations in this particular episode might not be appropriate for job interviews. But I'm going to let you decide what you think is appropriate and what's not appropriate. But I did want to recognize her National Anti-Hunger Advocacy Organization. They're called Mazon.org, Mazon.org. Please check them out. So they want to help feed people of all faiths and all races and nations around the world. So I think that's amazing.
Awesome.
Robert Hawks on Facebook asked if we think there's any chance Trump could end up in Chelsea Manning's old prison cell.
Oh.
Funny. JC Doulos 1 asked if we think the recent indictments make it hard to fire Rosenstein and Mueller. As I said earlier, yes, that was probably one of the main reasons.
Yeah.
So somebody else asked me, why do we love so hard on Comey when he handled the election, Someone else asked, why do you guys love so hard on Comey when he handed the election to Trump by announcing the reopening of the investigation?
That's a fair question.
When he did that reporting, the letter was sent to Congress, and Congress was going to release it to the public, and James Comey had to get out in front of it.
Yeah.
Comey didn't want that to get out to the public. Okay? So that wasn't his choice.
Yeah.
But when he found out Congress had it, he said, shit, now I have to do this. And he did his best to handle it.
Yeah.
So,
I was just going to say, I have no reason to believe really believe that it was, a politically motivated move when he did release those emails. And I think it was just him doing whatever duties he had to do as the FBI director at the time.
His hands were tied.
If it's getting ahead of the story like he did for the interest of the faith in the FBI, which the country is suffering.
He didn't want to release it,
right now
but someone else had it, and he was afraid they were going to release it, and then he had to be transparent about it.
Right. Exactly.
And he still apologizes. He still feels very uncomfortable about the situation.
Also, the timing of it, while, yes, it was really awful and affected, the outcome of the election potentially,
right?
It's still something that should have been investigated. I still believe it should have been investigated.
Absolutely.
It would have come out if he hadn't brought it out anyway.
Yeah.
All right, well, you guys, really good questions this week. Thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. Now it's time for
the Indictment Fantasy League.
All right, I get a point this week. I had a bunch of Russians on my list. And it seems we have a bunch of Russians that were indicted. Granted, they'll never face trial or extradition, but getting those guys into court was not Mueller's intent, as I said before. So thank you. I get my point. Because 13, I think, constitutes a bunch of Russians.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. And I don't think anything's going to change this week, except, you guys, sabotage.
Oh, I can't wait.
Gates flipped. This came out this morning, Sunday morning.
Man.
Manafort is fucked.
Yes.
Can you put an echo on that fucked?
Oh, you got it.
That would just be
drawn out.
Yeah, we'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Yeah.
Like,
one more time.
Manafort is fucked.
Yeah.
And one wonders if all of this isn't just to get Manafort to flip on the Trump Tower meeting.
Yes.
He's been hard to roll, that Manafort, but now they've got Gates, and things are heating up, so keep listening.
Yeah, that's his,
Because do you remember when it was Papadopoulos, and we were thinking, Gates and Manafort aren't going to flip? But now Gates has flipped, so there's
That's
hope.
what you do. You keep moving up the ladder
They're making
until
moves,
you get the top dog to flip. You guys, this has been awesome. This has been one of my favorite episodes. Happy Sweet 16. I've been AG.
I've been Jordan Coburn.
I'm Jaleesa Johnson.
This has been Mueller, She Wrote. Mueller, She Wrote is produced and engineered by AG, with editing and mixing by Jaleesa Johnson. Additional sound clips from Nick McLaren, and our digital media director and subscriber manager is Jordan Coburn. Fact-checking and research by AG with support from Jaleesa Johnson and Jordan Coburn. Our web design and creative is by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios, and our website is MuellerSheWrote.com.